I was walking through my yard today and I found this leaf, and this is really dry and maybe you can see it here, withered and crumbled and just, it just goes to paper almost. And it really reminded me of a passage that God's really been speaking to me through. It's in Psalm 1, and I want to read it to you today because it's really been challenging me and teaching me about God's Word. And it's just the first 3 verses. It says this, it says, "Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, or stand in the way of sinners, or sit in the seat of mockers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord. And on his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever he does prospers." For the last 2 weeks, God's really been speaking to me from this. And when I first read this, what really stood out to me is that whose leaf does not wither. Because a lot like this leaf here, I sometimes feel dry and I feel, withered in some way. And when I think about those times, I realize that it's times where I've really struggled spending time with God, and maybe I haven't been spending my daily time and just getting in His Word and praying. But I love the analogy it uses here and how it talks about, it says this man who's planted by this river, it says his delight is in the law of the Lord. And if I'm honest with you, and maybe you can relate to this, is sometimes I read God's Word and it's alive, and it, you read something and it just speaks to where you are. But sometimes, I read through this book here, this Bible, and it's just hard. It's dry. It doesn't really say anything. It doesn't seem like it's saying anything to me. It's hard to stay focused. I'm distracted. It's hard to make time for it. And if I'm honest, it's with myself and with God, it's God. A lot of times I don't delight. I do it out of obligation, or because I know it's important, or maybe even because I know, God, you've spoken to me through it in the past. But my heart doesn't really delight in it. So that's one of the things I've been praying over these last few weeks, is that God would that my heart would take pleasure, that I would delight in His Word in the Bible. And the other thing I struggle with as a pastor sometimes is oftentimes I'll read this and I'll see insights or ideas or thoughts or just see how God may want to speak to another person. Maybe it's a person I'm meeting with. Maybe it's on a Sunday morning or my life group. And sometimes it's hard to really focus and just spend time for myself in God's Word. And maybe maybe you have your own struggle. Maybe it's just hard to read. Maybe you're not a reader, and reading the Bible, just sitting down and reading for an extended period of time is hard. Or maybe it's hard for you to set aside time. Or maybe it's hard for you to focus because there's just so much going on. So my prayer today is that as God's been teaching me this, and as God's been speaking to me through it, and I've been praying, God, let me delight in your law, in your Word, in the Bible, that would be your prayer too. And that this Word, this Bible, would come alive for me and for you. So we wouldn't be like withered leaves, but we would be trees full of life that bear fruit